Hello. I am Diane Ricardo from Miss Macaskie's 4th period class. Today I will be talking about some crimes committed in Victorian society, as well as how they can relate to the book we have read, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. First we should discuss the what, when, and wheres of the Victorian era. The Victorian era took place in the UK from 1837 through 1901. This was the reign of Queen Victoria. She was 18 years old at the time that she took power. This was an industrialization period for Great Britain. During this time there were many famous cases of crimes, such as Jack the Ripper, Amelia Dyer, Edward Ruloff and many more. I will now be coming around to show you some of the pictures and names of those who committed well-known crimes during the Victorian era, as well as the crimes they committed. The first one on that page is Amelia Dyer. Although she is one of the most prolific serial killers of this era, she is often overlooked. She is believed to have committed hundreds of infantile murders. Amelia advertised herself as someone who adopts children or nurses them for a fee. After getting the kids, she would poison them with opium-based products and leave them in vegetative state until they ultimately died. After a while of this going on, people got suspicious of all the disappearances. So she found it easier to strangle the babies with tape, wrap them up, and throw them into a river. One of the first bodies to be found was that of baby Helena Fry, who was wrapped in newspapers in a brown paper bag. Her body had already begun to decompose. Evidence showed proof of 12+ murders, but it was thought that there could have been up to 200 of them in the span of those 20 years. Finally, she was caught and sentenced to death at the age of 57 in 1896. Let's now discuss a more notorious killer, Jack the Ripper. Enjoy this snippet of a clip from the infographics show explaining this mysterious
In this episode of the
case.
infographic show, why was Jack the Ripper never found? Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. We can't start this show with an introduction of who Jack the Ripper was because no one knows. Along with the Zodiac Killer, Mr. Ripper has become one of the biggest mysteries in the bloody world of serial homicides. But let's have a look at what he did. His handiwork, which included killing and eviscerating women on the streets of London, scared the Brits witless in the late 19th century. He did most of his work in the slums of East London in the district of Whitechapel, which is why he was also called the Whitechapel Murderer. Another name he was given was the Leather Apron. He got the name of Jack the Ripper from a letter he ostensibly wrote to police known as the Dear Boss Letter. So, what did Jack do? Well, the story goes that in the 1880s, East London was a place of absolute squalor. Immigrants from all over the world flooded there for work, but that didn't always work out for them. Crowded streets were festooned with what the English might call habitual boozers, and women of ill repute could be seen lingering on many a street corner. People blamed the immigrants for high spikes in crime and overcrowded streets. Racism was pervasive, as were fights and robberies. The police had their hands full as London was on the brink of social unrest and rioting, but the police in 1888 got the shock of their lives when a murderer came to life and he wasn't like any killer they'd ever seen. It's thought that he could have killed 11 people, but police report that they can only say he definitely killed 5 people. These are known as the canonical 5, meaning they were part of his killer canon. Now, 11 bodies isn't such a big deal when you consider the Ted Bundys of the world, and while Bundy was a necrophile, the Ripper had arguably even stranger proclivities. He used the knife, as you might guess from his name, slashing throats and bodies, sometimes to ribbons, but he also mutilated women's genitals, made all kinds of incisions on their bodies, and skillfully removed their internal organs. This surgery might include removing the kidneys, uterus, or generally any parts of the abdomen area.
Now let's get back to how these cases are related to the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. One of the more obvious themes in this story is that humans are prone to do evil. One can see that these cases are inhumane and had only caused destruction to society. With the case of Jack the Ripper, although we do not and will probably never know who he is, we know that no matter his intent, his actions were highly unnecessary to say the least. We can see that his evil was in murder and mutilating women. We can connect the two cases of Jack and Hyde, because in the story we see Hyde taking part in the sadistic, random act of killing Carew. Not only were these acts unnecessary, they were done in a matter of satisfaction. As if they got some sort of pleasure out of killing. These acts committed in the Victorian era were nothing short of gruesome. They were acts of pure evil and only further the argument that humans are more prone to evil. Not only for the theme, but the overall feeling of the Victorian era was really captured in this book. The dark, bleak setting gives a hair-raising chill. And upon research these cases give off the same vibe. Thanks for watching, if you're still awake. Also, please give me an A.